So then, last but not least, we have the ominous, the unpredictable, and the very reviled Dark Fleet. This is a group that represents the draco, the reptilians, the reptoids. They also have insectoids. They have a group that looks like mantis-type people. Some of my insiders have called them the grasshoppers. They also have another group that looks like an ant head. There's three little things down here. The head looks like an ant. It's got compound eyes and little 1.5-inch tall, stubby vestigial antenna. Then there's also a hybrid group that's half ant people and half mantis people, and they actually have 4 arms and 2 legs, whereas most of these people look, from the neck down at least, like us, predominantly. That's one of the things that evolution does. It takes different types of beings and it makes them into a human form. And I've been tripping out with my dog since I learned this, because my dog, you know, you look at her little arm, and you can see the elbow and you can see the shoulder, and especially this part of the dog's arm looks exactly human if you just change the wrist and from there down. And apparently there are people that look like they evolved out of a dog, and they have that kind of dog mouth, but more of a human face, and that's another type. There's many, many types, and a lot of them do look very human. The human shape and the human face is a very common one, so there's a lot of people that are going to be very familiar. But think about how these ETs would feel with the racism that we have just here on Earth. You know, when I went over to Japan, and I did a 3.5-week tour of Japan, and I'm a Caucasian, right? When I see another Caucasian, it doesn't matter if I don't know who this person is. We look at each other, we're like, it's you. It's you. We're like, oh. Because everybody's Japanese. And the only time I ever saw a black guy was in the airport. I never even saw one black person, male or female, anywhere in Japan, anywhere outside the airport. Never saw a Latino, never saw a Muslim. All I ever saw was Japanese people and a few Caucasians, and there is this feeling like you just want to reach out. So think about how we're going to feel about racial divisions, the people that we've, you know, been taught by the cabal to hate in some cases. And thankfully, that's all starting to go away. How are we going to trust people that have evolved on another planet with all the propaganda that the cabal has put out about, oh, they're shapeshifters and they're going to rip their face off and it's going to be this reptile underneath? I mean, come on. The propaganda is extreme because they don't want us to join our galactic friends in this so-called Federation. So the Dark Fleet are going around. They have some humans that are in these Nazi black uniforms, and they're very arrogant, and they treat all the other factions like crap. And they're out there predominantly outside our solar system, going around conquering everybody and creating a lot of disasters and chaos. Then, last but not least, it's not really considered a faction because it's only small, but there are some small groups that go out in scout ships, and they are just looking to see if everything's okay and just kind of spying on what's going on. Different than Solar Wardens. Solar Wardens kind of been left in the dust. Their role is essentially superfluous, so they were apologetically allowed to continue. None of their ships are newer than the 1980s. They actually have rail guns on them, which aren't even usable, so now they've retracted the rail guns and filled up the bays with oil. Because shooting a moving projectile at something, it's like as easy to dodge as just like if somebody was throwing a ball at you in slow motion for these ETs. So Solar Warden has really been treated like crap, and what's so interesting is their job predominantly was just to go around and study these forms of life in our solar system that are made out of plasma. It turns out that gases can actually be sentient, and so what they do is they find these little plasma life forms. They're sort of like amoeba, and they live off of the energy given off by planets and moons, the magnetic fields and such. And so what they try to do is they'll go and they'll find one of these gas beings and they'll sample some of the gas and bring it on board the ship, but it always apparently dies. They've never been able to propagate the whole thing. So like if you wanted to make a plasma gas being sourdough bread, you can't get the culture. It doesn't work. They're out there, but they got to stay out in space. You can't keep them in a jar and have them stay alive.